Now we interrupt that to bring you some breaking news coming in. The United States hails External Affairs Minister Jaishankar's statement on Moscow visit. US says Foreign Minister Jaishankar echoed what PM Modi had said earlier. This is not an era of war. US State Department spokesperson Ned said the India again reaffirmed that it stands against this war, that it wants to see dialogue, it wants to see diplomacy, it wants to see an end to this needless bloodshed that Russia is responsible for inside of Ukraine. It's important that the Russians hear that message from countries around the world.
The messages we heard from Foreign Minister Jaishankar in Russia were not dissimilar in some ways from what we heard from Prime Minister Modi at the UN when he made very clear that this is not an era of war. India again reaffirmed that it stands against this war, that it wants to see dialogue, it wants to see diplomacy, it wants to see an end to this needless bloodshed that Russia is responsible for inside of Ukraine. It's important that the Russians hear that message from countries around the world. It's especially important that the Russians hear that message from countries like India that are neighbors, that have economic, diplomatic, social, and political might. And that's precisely the message that Foreign Minister Jaishankar delivered.
Now we're joined by my colleague Abhishek Jha. Abhishek, this is a statement that India has made before, and it reflects a changing stance on Ukraine and the ongoing war. But what is most interesting is, while this is a message that is coming from other countries as well, when it comes from India, it is received in an overwhelmingly positive tone by Russia. And Putin has time and again highlighted the fact that it's a message that comes from India and he respects it, and it is something that he's been listening to.
Of course, and India has been able to maintain a very fine diplomatic balance when it comes to Russia-Ukraine conflict and bilateral relationship vis-a-vis Russia and USA. While Jaishankar was in Moscow yesterday and during his talk with Lavrov, he highlighted two things. First was that this is not an era of war, that Prime Minister Modi has said during his conversation with Vladimir Putin, President of Russia, in Samarkand. This has been echoed at various levels in United Nations Security Council. Also, Jaishankar repeated this statement of Prime Minister Modi, and yesterday also he repeated this sentence of Prime Minister Modi that India still believes that this is not an era of war because of the last 2-3 years of global crisis in terms of global pandemic, supply chain disruption, and other major economic and inflationary pressures in terms of higher commodity prices and crude oil prices. The world needs to focus on other areas of priority, and not on something. The war is something that should take a backseat, or any such conflict that will have a bearing on the already messed up global economy is something that the world should avoid. This is the sentiment that India expressed. At the same time, Jaishankar also was able to tell in a very straight way that there has been a clear understanding and cooperation between Russia and India over the several decades, and if that cooperation and that collaboration has served India well, then why should not it be continued? And this is what he said, that India will continue to have a strong and a steady relationship with Russia. This is where probably the US State Department spokesperson Ned Price has been picking up the strong tie that India and Russia have had over the several decades can also influence Russia's position on Russia-Ukraine conflict, because now it looks like after so many weeks of conflict between Russia and Ukraine, the world has not been able to influence Russia to withdraw from the conflict or bring the two sides on a negotiating table. And India can play a vital role in there, where not only Prime Minister Modi has been in regular touch with US Russian President, but also President of Ukraine, and maybe that can help the war to cease or the hostilities to come to an end.
Absolutely. Abhishek, let's also take a look at exactly what our External Affairs Minister said in Moscow.
Now, it is natural that as foreign ministers we exchange views on the international situation from our particular perspectives and vantage points. Obviously, the Ukraine conflict was a dominant feature, although we will continue to have discussions on it. Let me take this opportunity to lay out the Indian position on this matter. As Prime Minister Modi conveyed to President Putin in Samarkand in September, this is not an era of war. The global economy is simply too interdependent for a significant conflict anywhere not to have major consequences elsewhere.
Now it's time for a very short break on the show, but stay with us. We are going to be bringing you the latest update on the US midterm polls with the CNN Advantage.